Hello, everybody. I've been gone for a little bit, and I hope everybody's been having a good past few weeks, or at least not terrible weeks while I was gone. I've been kind of struggling a lot with my physical health lately, and whenever I'm not doing well with my health, I spend inordinate amount of times in bed and in the house because I don't really have the energy to do much. And the majority of the reason why I've been struggling lately is because my doctor had changed one of my medications to see if it could help my sleep, and it did not help my sleep. um, and then a whole bunch of other issues have popped up. So I've been struggling with like severe migraines and a lot of other things that at this point I don't even know if they're being caused by the medication or if they're being caused by something else that I'm doing and just unknowingly. So I have been gone for a little bit. I when I started this channel, I didn't want to really hold myself to a schedule because I know that that would be unfair to me and it would be unfair to you guys because I never really know how I'm going to feel day to day. When you have chronic health problems, it's just extremely hard to stick to a set schedule just because you will have issues pop up, especially when you least expect them. Like you could be feeling fine, and then you'll have like 2 weeks where you're just like extremely ill and you can't do anything about it. So I unfortunately don't have the ability to be one of those people who's like, I post new videos every Wednesday or what whenever they're posting videos. I hope that one day my health improves to the point where I can be a bit more consistent with this channel. But for now, I'll take what I can get. And I decided to film a little June calendar setup for you guys because I typically don't set up each month in my notebook, in advance, months in advance. I usually just make my monthly setup up to 1 to 2 months out, but never more than that. And the reason for that being is I don't really know what I want my monthly kind of layout to look like sometimes, aesthetic wise. And the other reason for that is I just feel like planning that far out in time can be really overwhelming for reasons like the ones I just said, especially if you don't know what your health is going to look like day to day. So I just find it really kind of overwhelming and anxiety inducing to plan out in advance for months and months at a time for the entire year. So I will generally get to maybe halfway to 3/4 of the way through a month and then be like, "Okay, let me set up the calendar for next month," because we're close enough to that month for me to start planning things. So that's usually how my calendars are set up, and I've mentioned in a previous video I like using the Travelers Company, monthly blank layout, like the monthly free layout, I think it's called. It's just it's very versatile and it really fits my needs specifically. I've been using that calendar layout for, I think at this point, a year and a half because I don't have so many things going on day to day that I need a weekly layout, you know? But it still helps me keep track of everything, events, doctor's appointments, and it helps me see the entire month because I often forget, um, that I have something going on and, I'll be like, "Oh, I forgot I had this doctor's appointment or this event," and that's not particularly helpful when you have chronic illness because Sometimes I'll be out here expending my energy, not realizing that I have to get up at a certain time the next day to go to a doctor's appointment. So, that's why I really like this, particular calendar layout. It helps me see far enough in advance to prepare for things, but not too far in advance to where I'm gonna get stressed out. So you can see at this point, I'm struggling to find a sticker that will fit in the upper right-hand corner. The corner, obviously, it's for, putting the number, like, of the month. It has a little, um, kind of it's a circle with just, the way numbers would appear on a digital clock, and you can just pencil in or draw the number of the month, which in this case, it would be, oh 06, but just I don't really ever use it because I don't like the way it looks, and it doesn't really kind of look as fun. It doesn't draw my eye to the calendar. So I generally just cover it up with a sticker, and in this case, I'm using the ones that I got from the, last video I'd done, the Sticky Club order, and I was just trying to find one that actually fit in that spot because they're pretty substantial stickers, they're not small. Sometimes they do send small ones, but in this case, most of the ones I had were pretty large, and I was trying to find one that fit in that tiny corner, and I just ended up, at some point going with the owl that you see on the left there, um, because it kinda fits the vibes, of what I've been doing lately. So lately, because I've been struggling so much with my health, I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate and I have been working on my novel. And I feel like one activity feeds into the other. When I play Baldur's Gate, because it's a fantasy game, it inspires me. It makes me want to write in my novel and just kind of work on it and see if I can continue out the story, right? And I'll work on my novel and then it's just kind of feeds into, "Oh, I wanna play Baldur's Gate. Let me go, explore this fantasy world." And it's just kind of, one feeds the other, and I don't think that that's a bad thing because I don't often find the motivation to work on my novel unless I am kind of, like, housebound, like, I can't go anywhere because otherwise I'm usually working on other creative projects or I'm trying to um, do household chores and things like that, which my husband, when I'm not doing well with my health, he gets very, just having me do household activities and chores makes him very anxious because he's an anxious person. So he will just kind of not want me to do as much as I usually do. So working on my novel is sort of a compromise to where it doesn't stress him out because I'm just sitting in bed with my computer and I'm typing away like a little gremlin, just typing on my computer with all the plot lines spilling out of my head. And I mean, the worst that happens when I'm doing that is that if I don't take enough breaks, I will give myself a migraine or a headache. But generally speaking, I don't spend that many hours on it for that to happen. And if I get tired, I literally just close my computer and just fall over in the bed, just lay down. So I have been doing a lot of kind of reworking of my novel, um, a lot of sort of, uh, I don't know what you'd call it, like, I guess reworking of the point of view. My novel, I originally wrote it in third person, and I have um, extracted the first couple of chapters on occasion to send them to friends and be like, "What do you think of this? Does this make sense? Would you read this?" And one of my friends who she's actually an English major, she was like, "I think that if you wrote this in first person, it would be really helpful to the reader to help them better understand what's happening because since there's so many moving parts, the book starts by dropping you, like, right in the action, it's a little confusing because you're seeing what everyone's thinking. It's showing everyone's point of view. This character's thinking this, and then this character's thinking that, and then the dialogue. And I can see how it would be confusing if you're not the person who wrote it, which obviously I don't know what I'm doing. I've never written a book. I've just been writing my whole life, but I've never actually written a novel. This was a project I started almost 2 years ago. And I genuinely, every time I work on the novel, I feel like that scene from, um, The Office where Michael Scott's just like, "Yeah, I just start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going." Like, I I don't know if anybody else can relate to, but I that's genuinely how I feel when I'm writing fiction. It's just I don't know where it's going. I'm just making things up as I go, and it's I find it a lot of fun because I can just do anything I want and with the world building. And in this case, I actually stress myself out sometimes because I start researching things to make sure that they are somewhat accurate to the, actual physical realm of the laws of physics and gravity and all that stuff. Um, the laws of combustion, everything, the way things work, because this novel is set in a kind of an early 1900s, like basically early 20th century, kind of steampunky world. Um, and I will get stressed out because I'll be like, did they have this metal back? And I'll research. I'm like, when was this metal invented? When was steam powered, like, combustible energy, vehicles, what kind of vehicles were available during that time or what was used, and just, things like that. Even though the book is not set on Earth, it's set on another planet. It's a sci-fi fantasy, but I just kind of wanted to make it somewhat realistic, just in the way of what you would expect to see from a society who is in that stage of their evolution as a race. So, it's just been a lot of fun. I don't expect anything to ever come of my book. I think that once I finish it and I get the cover art and everything done and I publish it, it's just gonna sit there genuinely. I've mainly been writing it for my own entertainment, but I find that it is a lot easier for me to work on that than it is to journal when I'm not feeling well. And this journal entry, you see, it's, like, backdated a bit because when I wrote down that day to write this, and then I got sick again, and I had not been able to sit up, for an extended period of time to edit this video and do voiceover for it and everything that entails making the video. But, the journal, pages that I'm writing on right now, they have the Sticky Club envelope that I had received. I cut parts of it out that I thought were cute that had the gold foiling, and I just put them in the notebook. And the a little hydro jug, um, pamphlet thing is because I had ordered a new lid for my water bottle, and, the lid came with this little instructional cardboard piece. And I always like instructional pieces because they show, like, they kind of deconstruct the item, and I love little diagrams like that. So I just stuck it into the page, but I was just kind of writing about the same thing. I've been telling you guys about what's been going on with my health and just all the craziness of being somebody who's just creative and has so many ideas, but does not have um the physical capacity to carry them all out in the way I would want, and, just feels kinda generally cursed, sometimes because I have all these projects that I wanna work on, and this genuine like, my husband calls me a creative chaos gremlin because he's just like, "You look like a gremlin where you're sitting there typing at the computer furiously. You look so, like, you're just so into it, and I'm like, "Well, yeah, because 'cause I'm excited, I'm making something, that is just it's, my own creative expression, whether it be in my notebook or in my novel, and I think it's important for everybody to have an outlet of some sort. It doesn't matter if somebody else thinks it's good, quote, unquote, "good," or, even if it doesn't have any, I guess, what you would consider substance. Because sometimes I'll write in my notebook, and it's, like, the most tragic, soul-crushing, like, just introspective thoughts that I'm having, and then other times, I'm just sitting there writing about, "Oh, I had this croissant, and I had some coffee," or just very mundane, like, nobody cares activities, But I think that that's the beauty of being creative, especially when you're creative for yourself. I think that that's the most important kind of creativity because, yeah, you can make things, I guess, for other people to look at and admire, but I think that true creative expression comes from you creating something that you can look upon and admire and that you really like, because that's, in my opinion, where true art is made. It's just an expression of, the human soul, and especially in the times we're living in now with all the AI generated slop that's floating around the internet, I genuinely get so stressed out sometimes when I, um, think about how I'm, at some point I'm gonna publish my book, and I'm just like, "You know what? Honestly, nobody probably will wanna read a book written by an actual person at a certain, like, there'll come a point in time where the only thing that will be floating around out there is AI generated slop that somebody wrote using, a an AI engine, basically, because that's such a big thing nowadays of, um, a lot of big companies and even doctor's offices. I had gone to my doctor recently, and they were using, an AI, um, on a tablet. They were recording our appointment on the tablet, and it's like some kind of AI program that helps them, you know, um, try to make sure that they didn't miss anything, or it transcribes it. Like, they basically took out the middleman of, how there's medical scribes who will type everything the doctor's saying, or the doctors will record themselves and have somebody else transpose it later. Now that's being done by a computer, which, I mean, I guess, if it can be beneficial in certain applications, but I generally feel like the replacement of human expression in art with something that's been created by a machine is ultimately tragic because you can tell. I feel like, yeah, AI is getting better, but you can still tell. Like, I generally, when I see an image, even if the image is meant to look realistic, of something that was created by AI, you can kind of tell. I don't know how to describe it. It has this uncanniness and this weird, almost too perfect, smoothness to it, which I don't even know if I'm making any sense, but I think there's something to seeing something that was made by a creature with a soul and seeing something that was made by a machine, and you can just there's some sort of quality that's missing from it, which I can't put my finger on, but it's just it's very easy to differentiate most of the time when something is created by AI versus an actual person who sat there and drew it or wrote it, etcetera. Um, but I guess that's just sign of the times that we're living in, and I'm just hoping that at some point we start using tools like AI for the purposes for which they were intended, which was to help make the kind of mundane and difficult tasks in people's lives easier instead of trying to replace their creative expression with something that was made by a machine, 'cause I do feel that that's very just a horrible use of something that could ultimately be a really helpful tool. Like, even what I described, the the doctor's office, they're using that now to transcribe their, medical notes instead of having an actual person sit there in the room with them and type, which I guess you could look at it both ways. It's the elimination of a potential job for somebody, but it also can free up that individual to do something else in the office instead of having to sit there and type out every word that the doctor is saying during the appointment. So, there's pros and cons to it, just like there is everything. But at the end of the day, whether AI takes over our mainstream art, writing, movies, filmmaking, and anything else, I'm gonna continue to write in my notebooks because I mostly just writing them for me, to keep a record of things and to look back on the good times and sometimes the not so good times. But it's just a way for me to memory keep that helps me to hold on to things when I'm going through a really hard time with my health, because when I'm doing poorly, my brain fog is so severe that I'll just sit and try to remember, like, say it's a Friday, and I'm like, "Oh, what did I do earlier in the week?" Can't remember anything. I don't even know what I had for lunch yesterday. I'm like, the entire week is just a blank in my head because I've been so just feeling half asleep the entire time because I have not been feeling well. So I really am thankful for the fact that journaling is something that I've always kind of had as a staple. And whether it be for creativity, note taking, record keeping, whatever it may be, it's just always a really good tool to have. Even if you don't write every day, which when I'm not doing well with my health, I tend to not journal every single day, because it is very difficult to sit at a desk kind of bent over writing when you have chronic pain problems. And I generally prefer to have longer writing sessions rather than really short little abbreviated ones every single day where I'm just writing a couple of sentences. I think that that's more meaningful and it has um, a better chance of giving me an overview of what's been going on and what's really affecting me, what stands out. But that's just what works for me. I know that there are people who that way of journaling works for them, where they'll just write a couple of sentences and that'll be their journaling entry for the day. They'll do it again the next day. So it's just whatever works for you. I've just found that forcing myself to journal every day is pretty detrimental just to my motivation to pick up my notebook in general. But I do like having my notebook around, and especially when I'm going through it emotionally, I have some kind of turmoil going on. It's very helpful to just pour everything out onto the page, close it, and just forget about it till the next time I'm crashing out about something. So I think on this particular entry, I was just writing about the medication changes and the problems I was having with it. I have since written another entry since this last one that's fairly long, but I don't think that I had set up to record that one because that one wasn't a genuine crash out, and I even had it complete with the tragic looking the most tragic looking sticker I could find in the Sticky Club pack that they sent. So, I am trying to find a balance between journaling for myself and journaling for content. But if I'm writing about something that I don't think is particularly sensitive or private, then I will tend to film it just so that I can keep making these little journal with me videos, because I know I enjoy watching journal with me's and kind of ASMR content all the time. As an anxious person, I love that sort of content because it helps me kind of just calm down, take a minute. It helps me when I'm having a hard time sleeping, and I wanna be able to create content like that for other people. So, I think that's pretty much all I had to say about what's been going on with me. Had my little tangent about AI and how it's ruining us. And, I'm just gonna leave the rest of the video off with some music, and I hope that everybody who's watching this, everybody who's a new subscriber, also welcome, but everyone who's currently watching, I hope all of you guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are, and I hope that I am able to make a video a little bit sooner rather than later again. But if I'm not, until then, thanks for watching. Bye.